Greetings, Justice Seeker. Welcome to Justice, Not Justice, Season 1, Episode 32. So when we last met, Lisa Bangert had filed a motion of contempt against Jeremiah regarding posting Google reviews and so forth, and we had sought an attorney. But I have to reflect back now to yet another moving part of this whole crazy show, which is that if you'll recall back in February of that year of 19, that Jamie had filed her third restraining order effort against Jeremiah, which was subsequently dismissed due to her inability to prove what she was saying. She filed what's called a de novo hearing on that, which means that if a person disagrees with what a court commissioner says, then they can ask for a de novo review, like a new review by a judge themselves, okay? So she filed that late February, and this de novo was assigned to who? None other than the Honorable Jane Carroll herself. Now, why did it get assigned to her? We don't know. But it kind of seems like that's a conflict of interest for a judge to be hearing a divorce case, which she already knows is quite contentious, to also be hearing a harassment injunction case, particularly after she had called Jeremiah stalkerish in the recent hearing with Lisa Bangert in her emergency hearing. So we were very displeased by that, and as a matter of fact, during the first hearing, so this was scheduled in February, the first hearing was held in May of 19, and Jeremiah asked Judge Carroll to recuse herself from the case, specifically saying that she cannot be impartial to this because she just had a hearing about things with Lisa Bangert, called him stalkerish and so forth and so on, and Judge Carroll declined to recuse herself from the case, okay? So she heard the case. Now, it was originally scheduled for one hearing. It ended up being extended over the course of two hearings in May and June of that year. And I'm going to try to summarize real quickly what happened in those hearings. So the first thing that I need to point out is that Jamie had found herself an attorney to represent her during this de novo, okay? So she has an attorney, Jeremiah doesn't. We walk into the courtroom, and attorney, her name is Katie Aldrich or some such thing, I think she's from Legal Aid Society, is sitting on her side with her computer open and all of her evidence and so forth spread out all over. She's working on her computer and this type of thing. So we had done extensive preparation in advance as well, which included all of the evidence you've already seen, so videos, audios, electronic documents, this kind of thing. So Jeremiah and I walk into the courtroom and we proceed to go over to the petitioner's side of the courtroom to set up his table like had been set up for Attorney Aldrich. And this person here, who we've seen before, Sheriff David Jepson, who is the bailiff or whatever his role is in Judge Carroll's court, immediately met us as we're trying to enter the area where the tables are and said, you may not have any electronics in here. You need to go and put that away and turn the computer off and keep it off. And we were like, well, but this is our evidence. We have evidence here. And he's like, first of all, you, Kristen, you're not allowed in here at all, type of thing. And I mean, I'm there to be like of technical assistance because Jeremiah is not that technologically savvy. And then just refused to allow him to set up his table with his evidence and everything as was happening simultaneously over on the other side. So what ended up happening over the course of these two hearings, and I will just say that so there was originally for an hour in May. It went longer, so they had to reschedule for another hour in June. And in June, we were met with the same aggressive attitude by Sheriff Jepson. He has always been agitating and confrontational with both me and Jeremiah, and very seems to be very interested in having one or both of us arrested at any of these hearings. He just automatically meets us with aggression, and I don't know what that's about, but he clearly has determined in his own mind that Jeremiah is already guilty of things, and then I guess by default that I must be as well. But what ended up happening was that Judge Carroll really was grievously biased and unfair in the hearing, and I have documentation to that effect, and ultimately showed favoritism toward Attorney Aldrich and against him by allowing them to present evidence and him not to present evidence, them to have electronic media, him not to have electronic media, constantly interrupting this kind of thing. So in June, a harassment injunction was issued by Judge Jane Carroll, against Jeremiah in favor of Jamie Collins. Now, I want to be very clear, because Jamie really likes to relish in the lie that this is a restraining order. It's not a restraining order, it's a harassment injunction, and they're two very different things with very different implications. Effectively, Judge Carroll said, you are harassing her by sending her text messages and so on, and you need to stop and blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to get into whether or not I agree with that, because it doesn't matter. But there's no restraining order, like he did something violent and, needs to be restrained from it. Although she loves to, tell people, and particularly her children, your dad can't be around, the type of thing. So anyway, I want to make that clear. It was very clear to me as an observer that Jeremiah was being railroaded, and his sister was also present during these hearings, and definitely got the sense that something was seriously amiss in Jane Carroll's court as it related to Jeremiah Collins. So we filed an appeal to the Wisconsin Court of Appeals, and it is currently in review. It takes a while. I'm going to try and just kind of highlight some of the things that we said, the reasons why we are appealing this this decision. Judge Carroll consistently demonstrated bias and prejudice against Mr. Collins throughout both hearings. Coming into the hearing with prejudice as by, having characterized him as stalkerish, refusing to allow him to present any evidence or exhibits. He was not allowed to introduce anything, nothing, zero, okay? Allowing the other side to introduce audio and video evidence and not allowing him. She was contradictory in what kind of evidence she was allowing, from what time frame, this kind of thing. She consistently relied on the reporting of Attorney Aldrich for facts instead of checking them for herself. So whenever something would be brought up, she would look at Attorney Aldrich and say, is that accurate or is that true? Rather than, never ask Jeremiah, rather than finding out by looking at all of the evidence. Consistently interrupted Mr. Collins, and therefore the basis against which she has determined harassment is faulty. So I'm going to just jump over real quickly to speak to some of those points. So Mr. Collins, over the course of those two hearings in May and June, attempted 24 times to allow evidence. He asked 24 times if he could allow evidence. He was either ignored or told no. How do I know this? Because it's called a transcript of the recording. And I went through and I counted how many times he tried to introduce evidence and he was told no. He tried 22 times to access and introduce his audio and video evidence via computer, as Attorney Aldrich had been, and again was either told no or ignored. Judge Carroll, on 31 different occasions, confused or contradicted the dates of which she was allowing evidence to be introduced. There was an argument during the course of the hearings about whether or not evidence was provided to both sides of the party timely. Namely, they were saying that we didn't provide evidence to them, which we did. And 19 times Jeremiah corrected that and said, I did provide the evidence timely. Over the course of the both hearings, frequently and regularly interrupting Mr. Collins, but never interrupting Attorney Aldrich. And again, those are documented. And then there was a period of an hour that Attorney Aldrich was allowed to talk and question and introduce and things, and never once during that entire hour was she ever interrupted by Jane Carroll. All right, I'm going to cut this short. There's a couple more things I want to say about this particular hearing, just to solidify the bias against Jeremiah. She refused to allow her to recuse herself, came into it having just called him stalkerish, and then definitely showed preferential treatment to the other side. I will see you soon.